This time we'll tie it with the camera recording. See if that helps. Friday, Q&A, fan mail. Lovely. Haven't had a lot of videos out in the last 2 weeks because I have been sick. I went to Kansas, came back, did the live stream with Out of Darts, and then Thursday started feeling sick. Friday I was very sick. Saturday and Sunday were unpleasant. Monday I started feeling better. Tuesday I was well enough to finally go get tested, and it was in fact COVID. So I don't know if I picked it up in Kansas or I might have picked it up from Out of Darts. I doubt it. They both tested negative, so Perry and Luke were the two that I came in contact with. They both tested negative. I might have picked it up in the Goodwill run after I left their place. Who knows? I'm pretty much fully recovered now. I did lose my sense of smell. Hopefully it does return. I miss smelling mint. And of course, I've obviously had to cancel my Halloween event, which I've been looking forward to for about a year now, and everything was all lined up. Had volunteers who were coming in. Got the maze set up. It was going to be pretty cool. But obviously, if I'm positive for COVID, I cannot be hosting an event. That would be bad. So that's what's going on there. Tragic. Tragic. So I'm quarantined. There were things I wanted to do and I don't get to do them, and that's what happens when you take risks, like traveling to Kansas or going to Goodwill. Yes, I wore a mask. I washed my hands. I for the most part socially distanced, but apparently it snuck in and got me, which it'll happen. And luckily, I haven't exposed very many people, and the people I have tested negative. So stay safe. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Do what you can. All right, questions. Questions. Sam Berg. It seems like Storytime with Captain Xavier has slowed down recently. Did you stop doing those? Yeah. Yeah, I did. Markoom. My Captain, how easily do you find sling fires? Well, it depends on which sling fire you're referring to. There have been two. There's obviously the Zombie Strike sling fire, which I'm sure is the one you're referring to. They show up fairly often. I don't know how many I have, but they're less common now, but they show up at Goodwills from time to time. The other one was the Slingfire DX400 from 2001, and it is apparently extremely rare. It is, in fact, the only vintage blaster that I know of that I don't currently have, other than a handful of obscure Supermaxes. So if anyone out there has the yellow 4-barrel pull-and-release Slingfire from 2001 that you would be willing to part with, let me know, because I'd love to get my hands on one. Austin Black. Wizard, Warlock, or Sorcerer? Wizard. Josiah Mayfield. Favorite Jolt variant? I'm actually very fond of the Microshot Hammershot, but it's a very love-hate relationship. I love that it's a miniature Hammershot. I have an ankle holster that was given to me by 3D printed solid, fabulous, but every time I pick one of those up, I try to prime it using the hammer, and it doesn't prime that way, and it makes me angry. But that's my favorite one. Atticus, if you could make a new crossover line of Nerf, what would you make and why? Warhammer 40k. I would love to have bolters and bolt pistols and orc shooters and las pistols and las rifles and all that stuff. Would be awesome. Car Crusher Legos and Cars. Is Kansas actually flat? The area I was in was fairly flat, not like flat as a pancake. There were some variation, but it was pretty flat. Travis G.A. What are your thoughts on autobiographies, comics, and manga? They're neat. I don't know if I have any autobiographies. I do have some comics, both like graphic novels as well as, I think I've got a book, an Order of the Stick book, and a Calvin and Hobbes book. I don't have any manga. I wouldn't say no to some manga, but I'm not going to go out of the way to get in. Second question, have you tried Sprite Limonade? I have not. That sounds delicious. Eskild Haagensen. Can you make a chainsword from foam? Well, hundreds of people have made chainswords out of foam. I've seen the cosplays online. I probably could too, and I do want to. Someone offered to make me one, and then it never ended up happening. It is on my list of things to make myself a nice chainsword. Michael Nimrod, would you consider collaborating on modding Nerf blasters with other modders in the community? I built a makerspace specifically to be able to do that. I would consider it. I might. Someday, I might consider, yes. T-Bug20. Have you ever played any Lego video games? No. No, they're all kind of the type that would almost certainly make me motion sick, so I have not. Oh, I hit the stand. Jonathan Honeycutt. Have you tried Bedford's root beer? Yes. Delicious. Love it. Autumn Yule Shoba. Have you ever read or listened to the Bobaverse series? Never even heard of it. Emerald. Do you like Halo / would you like Halo books in your library? I do enjoy Halo. I've never played the game because, again, motion sick. I played it once and it made me motion sick. But I do enjoy the lore. In fact, I just finished my third Halo book. I read The Fall of Reach, The Flood, and First Strike. Just finished First Strike, I think 2 days ago. So yeah, I'd love to have more Halo books. I've got 2 more. I don't remember which ones that I picked up at Goodwill's that I do plan to read. But yeah. Stuart Howell. Have you ever read any of David Gemmel's books? Not that I know of. James Wright. How easily would it be to modify Reverse Plunger Blaster into a regular Plunger Blaster, direct plunger? Well, Hasbro has actually done it for a bunch of their old N-Strike lines. There were then N-Strike Elite versions were direct plunger. And so you can take the internals out of the direct plunger ones and transplant them into the reverse plunger ones. And people will do that because of the shells. The N-Strike line had some shells that never existed in the N-Strike Elite line, and so people will, you know, put Elite Alpha Trooper parts into an Alpha Trooper, or they'll put Retaliator parts into a Recon, or Rampage parts into a Raider, or stuff like that. And that's fairly simple. There are some changes because they're not just direct drop in. There are some slight modifications you might have to make to the shell. But if you're trying to do one from scratch, like one where there is no equivalent, or you just want to do it yourself, that would be quite difficult, because you're going to have to make probably a new bolt sled, a new bolt, a new plunger, and a new plunger rod, and a new catch. Possibly even a new trigger. Pretty much all of the internals will need to get replaced. So it would not be particularly easy. There would be a lot of fabrication you would have to do. Windbreaker Gaming. How often do you drop a screw or other small internal piece, then briefly search for it before giving up, never to see it again? Not very often. I keep my work area actually fairly clean, and if anything's going to fall, it's generally going to go under my workbench, and then I have a magnet rod that's fairly easy to find any small parts. So it doesn't happen too often. Gustav. Captain, have you ever heard or read the Nightwatch series by Sergei Lukyanenko? I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. No, never heard of it. Sounds neat. I like the Nightwatch books by Terry Pratchett, the City Watch books, Eduardo Newman. Have you ever heard of Horatio Hornblower? Yes, of course I have. That's fabulous. I watched a good portion of the mini-series while building my ships of the line, and I plan to finish the series when I start my first-rate ship of the line. I only have one of the books, though. I'd love to eventually have the whole series. Bugs. Cloud3514. Did you enjoy the Vinland Saga? I haven't read it yet. I should do that. And finally, Barasta. Do you find zombie players target you more than other players in HVV events? I wonder if your celebrity status in the hobby has any downsides in games. I haven't noticed that, but I haven't actually been in a whole lot of HVZs since I attained celebrity status. At End War, the crew held the rear guard of one of the events, so we were going to be targeted by everybody anyway, and it didn't really make any difference. There were a couple of people that were clearly gunning for me, but they couldn't get through our defense, so it didn't really matter. The one time where it did kind of come up was OSU, the last OSU HVZ, right before the plague hit. I got tagged out, and the person could have tagged any number of other people before me, but they chose to tag me because they felt I was the more tactically appropriate target, and they were right. So, you know, kinda. But that was less about my celebrity status and just more that they recognized that I was, you know, a really good player. But most of the events that I'd gone to up to that point, I ended up playing an NPC. So, like, afterwards I play an NPC at Ragnarok Oktoberfest, I was playing an NPC. At PSU, I played an NPC. And I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, that I wanted to just play as a regular player and you know, allow people the opportunity to take me out and have the bragging rights and all of that if they really wanted to. And I made the decision that I was going to do that. I was only going to play as a player from now on. and in 2020. So, yeah, we all know how that turned out. But no, I haven't really seen a whole lot of downsides to it, especially like local games. It makes no difference. They all know I'm a schmuck and they know what I'm about. But I haven't really seen a downside. There's been a lot of really cool stuff, but hasn't been too detrimental as of yet. Train? Aha! Oh, not even close. Right, and now for the package. There's that train. Right, I have a bunch of package that are almost certainly books. Something dubious, and 2 package from the inestimable Daniel Dillman. I'm looking forward to opening those, but we will start with the book-looking ones and see what y'all have sent me for my... Ooh. Oh, man, lost the note. Come here, note. Is there a note? Is there an actual note or just note? Could be from anybody. We have Superman Batman, the alternate histories. Okay, well that looks absolutely awesome. Oh, I think I've definitely seen this one before. Yeah, I think one of the libraries had it. Definitely one I'm happy to have in my collection. Very, very cool. That's beautiful art. I dig it. Very cool. Whoever sent that, you were awesome, and thank you. So there, that kind of answers this question of comics. Yes, I do have graphic novels in my collection. What do we have here? We've got a book. The Drawing of the Dark by Tim Powers. Neat. No, of course not. Very cool. Yeah. Neat. I dig it. Looks nifty. Add it to the fantasy section. We have what is probably a book. It is a book. No, it's 2 books. Even better. On Stranger Tides, Tim Powers. Wasn't that another one, Tim Powers? Tim Powers. Well, all right then. Board the vociferous Carmichael, puppeteer John, traveling towards Jamaica. Pirates! Very cool. Very cool. I dig it. And Under the Black Flag. The romance and the reality of life among pirates. Most excellent. So pirate books, definitely very fitting to have pirate books in my piratey collection. Again, I don't know, there doesn't appear to have been a note. Nope. So whoever you are awesome. Thank you. Book. Pretty sure it's a book anyway. It is. It is in fact Frank Herbert's Dune. Oh, that is a beautiful copy. I do. Is this any note? Oh, good, Captain. I wanted to help you with the book request. Dune has been my favorite book now for many moons, and this version of it is simply stunning. Thank you so much for all you do in Usul We Trust, from Kenton T. Wilcox. Well, excellent. That is an absolutely stunning copy. That blue is very striking. This will go nicely. Oh, good Lord. I did not know there were that many books. I've got a whole bunch of them. I, once again, need to put together a list because I... Oh, it's got an introduction. Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, thank you. I wanted to read it before I went and saw the recent movie that came out. So, that will actually be the next book that I read. Will be Dune. Alright, now for the dubious package. Or, it is the dubiousest. The most dubious. Darts! It is, in fact, just darts. That is fascinating. Was this? This wasn't... Or was it? It's a bunch of vintage darts I believe I know who this is from. Yes, a bunch of true vintage darts, or vintage Mega, as well as vintage whistlers, old suction cups. Very, very cool. Yeah. Cool. Yes. I will need to get around to sending compensation for that. There was an agreement. Right. That arrived quick. Neat. Okay. Now for the package from Monsieur Dillman. We've got a long, thin one and a square, fragile one. I'm going to take a look at this one first. And, ooh. Oh, man. I know what that one is. What do we got here? Oh, no, stop it. We have the Missile Blast, I think it's called. Old pump action vintage blaster. Hamp. Very cool, very cool. We have, I think this looks like a lipo charger. It would appear to be, but I might need to. I don't see the connectors, so I can connect the balance cables, but I can't actually connect the power cable currently. Though I probably can find those online. That's pretty nifty. Very cool. Never have too many lipo charges. And then we have. Oh, these are getting harder and harder to come by. The old Paz shotgun. Oh, it catches. I think it has a ridiculously large plunger tube. It fires ballistic balls. I've got one that I've modified to take a bunch of different barrels. Fancy that. Dead certain it's not supposed to rattle. Now I'm curious what's going on there, because it catches and it fires. I wonder what's busted. Very cool. Very cool. Any cables that I just didn't notice? Nope. Well, I'll have to see if I can get the power cables or the connection cables for that lipo charger. In which case, it'll be extremely useful. All right, we now have the fragile one. It says fragile. This way up. All right, I suspect they have sent me root beers. He has indeed. What kind? Or he sent me some kind of liquid. Bloomer's root beer. There's one I've never had before. Rocky Mountain. Now, Rocky Mountain I have had, I believe. I think it was one of the ones that I picked up when we went to the root beer store up north of Seattle. Gray Brewing Company. Definitely never had that one. So there's a new one. Baumeister. There's another one I've never had. This is the coolest thing, in my opinion, about root beer, is that there are hundreds of root beers. Dachshunds. Dachshunds. There's another one. Definitely never had that one before. Most excellent. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. I will get to try a new root beer with dinner tonight. I'm looking forward to that. New books to add to the shelf. I get to start Dune in preparation for that movie. Should have started it, you know, long before the movie came out. Not like I was going to go to it in the theater anyway. It'll eventually be available online, and I shall watch it there. Very, very cool. Thank you all for your questions. If you have questions, put them in the comments of this video. That's how I pull my questions. And thank you all for watching.